Hello! In a recent blog post, I had the idea, as I was writing it, that I would do another look at the summary of the criteria for selection for ordained ministry in the Church of England. If you haven't seen it, I did one of these a long time ago, about a year, and I'm expecting my responses to be a little bit different. Criterion A, vocation. Candidates should be able to articulate a sense of vocation to the ordained ministry. I think that's pretty safe as a requirement. I've had the vague notion I wanted to be a priest since I was 16, and it's just got stronger. It was a niggle in the back of my head for many years, and then I got a big kick, and now I'm on what feels like the path to ordained ministry. And reflect on the effect of this on their life. Well, the effect has been, it has motivated the options I've looked at, and then as far as I'm concerned, God has put me in the places and pointed me towards the opportunities that take me on that path. They should be able to speak of the development of their inner conviction. The conviction hasn't really developed, actually. The conviction has always been there. It's been a surety. It's been something that I knew was inevitable. The development has been in when I have done things. I have developed in who I am, and every time I've reached a point at which that development has matured, God has basically reiterated God's support for that conviction when the maturity leads to a new opportunity in that direction, and the extent to which others have confirmed it. This is interesting, actually, because in the beginning, a year ago, and not a lot of people said much, really, but slowly various people have said something to the effect of they think I'll make a good priest, or the newest ones have been the fact that I've brought a new energy, to this new job, this new church. They should be able to show an understanding of what it means to be a deacon or a priest. That's growing all the time because I'm watching them in action every day now. Priest is such an unspecific term in many ways, and every single priest does it in their own way. They have their own emphasis, their own style. But I found really what it means to be a priest is what do other people expect of their priest. Their sense of vocation should be obedient, realistic, and informed. I still don't understand what it means when it says sense of obedience. My sense of vocation is getting more and more obedient every day. I mean, the last year there's been a huge change in how I've accepted God's will for my life, and also stopped making plans of my own. I really struggled with that in the beginning, but now I am so just done with setting any expectations and just going where my gut feeling, my Holy Spirit inspired conscience tells me. I think it's realistic. I hope in these blogs I've shown that I realise that it's not a sure thing, and as much as I think it's something I'm inexorably going to do, the Church of England can still say no. And I think I have a realistic understanding of the effort that goes into it, and not just the next few years of discernment and training and curacy, but beyond that. I see the priests I'm working with learn something every day, and they're learning through their ministry what works, what doesn't. They're learning from each other. They're learning from people like me, who, I give you my opinion, and they're learning. It's a lifelong path. It's not a path that leads to priesthood and then stops. Jesus is the way. I've said this already in a blog post, but I really like the idea. Jesus is the way. He's not the static place. And I think that's also true of my vocation to priesthood. I understand realistically that it is a path that keeps going for the rest of my days if I do become a priest. Last one is my sense of vocation should be informed. Well, hopefully I have done almost everything I can to become informed, and I'm getting there. I've been reading, and I'm also now doing work experience in ministry. I've read through the DDO handbook, which, some people are actually quite surprised at, and I've had at least one person be concerned and think I shouldn't have, which is very interesting. Criterion B, ministry within the Church of England. Candidates should show an understanding of their own tradition within the Church of England, an awareness of the diversity of traditions and practice, and a commitment to learn from and work generously with difference. I don't know how many times over the last few weeks I have said something along the lines of, I love being Anglican. I think there's something truly wonderful and Christian. I think it's such a true and honest response to Christ and the Gospels, the Anglican tradition of unity in diversity. And it's really exciting. I've been saying that there's so many things at this church that I'm working at that I could do or be involved with, but I've only got a year and I probably won't manage it. It's the same with the Church of England and the Anglican Communion. There's so much of it I want to experience, so much music, so many traditions, so many thoughts and understandings of things. I just want to find out all, and I don't think I'm going to manage that in a lifetime. They should be able to speak of the distinctiveness of ordained ministry within the Church of England. It was interesting, I went to a talk about chaplaincy, and that really highlighted the distinctiveness of the Church of England, of being a priest in the Church of England, because they're treated as a certain thing in England. They're assumed to be neutral and accepting this All Souls ministry, which again, you know, I really think is a true ministry of Christ. And ordained ministry means a willingness to understand lots of other people and to be a source of wisdom. But to be honest with you, actually, this line is a little bit vague for me and something I'm going to ask about once I get further in the process. And of what it means to exercise public ministry. This is an interesting line because I think it covers several different aspects. There's the fact that you are representing something, you're representing an institution, you're representing a faith. And I think also the fact that there's danger in being involved in the public, being in a building that anyone can wander into any time. And then there's also using that platform that you do, using it for the right reasons and using it in the right way. Two examples I can think of are St Martin's are in a very obvious spot on Trafalgar Square, so they make the most of that and their connection with the BBC in their appeal every Christmas, so they can raise millions of pounds to help the homeless. And the second is Piccadilly have done loads of things with their platform, the fact that they're in an obvious spot. So they had the rainbow flag out on the church when the Pride Parade used to go past it, and then they had the art installation. That was a really controversial thing, but they felt so strongly that it was the right thing to do to point towards the suffering that's happening in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They should be able to reflect on changes in contemporary society and the implications of this for ministry and the church. Well, this is such an obvious one for being a young person, you know, coming in from the secular culture and experiencing the church. I'm very aware of the changes in contemporary culture, and the implications for ministry in the church are massive, and the church needs to get off its arse and actually do something about it. Criterion C. Spirituality. Candidates should show evidence of a commitment to a spiritual discipline which involves individual and corporate prayer and worship. This is improving in my life, you know, as usual, very slowly, and it has been improving very slowly for a long time now, but it's still going. Progress is still being made. So now I do morning prayer 4 times a week at church, which is a really nice thing to do collectively. And of course I still go to Sunday worship, and then I go to other Eucharists in the week, and sometimes they can have much bigger impact on me than the Sunday one. It's really interesting depending on my mood and what the topic is and how the service is structured. I got really motivated on Wednesday, for example, at the evening service, and I came in the morning all bouncy. Something I thought about in the last few days is I don't give myself enough quiet time. I don't embrace the silence at all, and I've struggled with that as a concept for a long time, and it's nothing new. I was thinking about it, and I said to myself today, actually, don't keep on just turning on the radio or turning on a podcast. Just, if you're doing something and there's nothing to listen to, don't listen to anything. So hopefully, you know, thoughts like that will help focus my personal worship, because it is still a rare thing for me to crack open a prayer book or to sit down and take solid time out to pray. I have more moments. It's interesting, over the last few weeks I have had more moments of connecting with God, as it were, in the day, sort of remembering God and bringing him into the moment with me. That growing awareness, that's really great, but that's not quite prayer. It's a different type of prayer, but it's not putting time aside for just God and me. Like I say, progress is being made and we're still getting there. They should be committed to a developing pattern of disciplined prayer, Bible study, and the regular receiving of Holy Communion. So as I said, the disciplined prayer thing, still a work in progress, but I think I'll eventually get there. I'm spending so much time, I have to spend so much time these days in prayer, whether I'm in a service or I'm writing prayers, which is a new experience for me, or doing morning prayer, or even just praying at the start of a meeting. That is becoming more part of my life, and I am seeing, like I say, those small signs that it's having effect on my spirituality. Bible study is an interesting one. I've never taken it upon myself to do personal Bible study. I've been reading the Bible every day. I started on January the 1st, I'm sure I've mentioned this in the blog before, but I started on January the 1st and I'm reading a section every day book that's put it together, and I'm basically on track. I think I'm a few days behind at the moment. And then we're doing Lectio Divina every week, which is part of my life, and regular receiving of Holy Communion. Goodness, I don't know how many times a week I do it. At least twice, if not 3 times, sometimes 4. They should be able to show how they discern God's activity in their life. I just did it! There! You can see the evidence, the video evidence. I was reflecting on God's activity in my life. And the key of that is the progress from seeing it in hindsight to seeing it in the moment. How their spiritual practice may have changed over time and how it is changing them. My spiritual practice has changed over time in the fact that it's just increased. Me personally, my journey has been a slow increase. But that's my journey with God, and I have every faith that that's how it's supposed to be. I'll have to think about the one about how it's changing me, because the most obvious thing in my life that has come from my faith is my conscience and my morality and my choices in doing the right thing. But I'd also have to ask other people in my life if they've seen a change in me. They should be able to reflect on how engagement with the world and others both affects and is affected by their practice of prayer. At the moment I'm experiencing more corporate prayer, and I can definitely see the impact it has on others. And like I was just saying, I think engaging with the world and being constantly stimulated by sound, that's affecting my practice of prayer in a negative sense, because I'm not comfortable with silence. And it's good to be aware of that, because I can work on that and hopefully embrace the silence, as I've said a million times. Their spiritual practice should be able to sustain and energise them in daily life and future ministry. I would definitely say over the last few weeks, the fact that I have increased my spiritual practice with all these weekly services and things has increased my awareness of how it sustains my life. And I think there's something in the fact that I am reading the Bible and I'm reading it as a story, sort of in chronological order, as it were. And in the same way that any story can energise you, what's more energising than the greatest story ever told? Criterion D, personality and character. Candidates should be sufficiently self-aware, mature and stable to show that they are able to sustain the demanding role of ordained minister. Well, I've always been mature, and I think stage management has given me a stability I may not have had previously, and hopefully doing this job will be a nice piece of evidence I'm able to sustain a demanding role in the church. They should be able to demonstrate how they have faced change and pressure in a balanced and flexible way, and how they manage stress. This one, I basically have way too much stuff to say for this one, because I could tell you my entire experience of stage management for 10 years. So hopefully when I get to this point in the discernment process, I'll be able to sort of pick and choose the best ones that show how I deal with change, pressure and stress. Candidates should be seen to be people of integrity who can generate trust and display honesty. Nothing I can really say in this one. That's a call for whoever's judging me and what my referees say. They should be able to speak of how they have coped with difficult life experiences, how they have reflected upon them and incorporated them within their life and understanding. When life gets difficult, I think my initial reaction is to get practical, and it's only after that I have to sort of work through it and process it. And I've been getting much better at being self-reflective. Criterion E, relationships. Candidates should show the capacity to build healthy personal, professional and pastoral relationships. I have healthy personal relationships, I have healthy professional relationships, and I've had many, in fact, or both. The next step is being able to show that I have healthy pastoral relationships, and I'm working on that. I'm working with the children, and that's a very pastoral role, but that's my title, pastoral assistant. So hopefully those relationships will be coming in the next year. They should demonstrate an awareness of the need for and ability to establish and sustain appropriate boundaries between personal and professional life and within pastoral relationships. Again, one of the challenges I'm embracing now that I'm working for a church. They should be able to manage conflict and show an ability to negotiate difficult relationships. See my previous about my stage management career. Candidates should demonstrate good interpersonal skills, the willingness to learn from experience, and a commitment to building inclusive relationships within diversity. Again, someone's going to have to judge for themselves whether I have good interpersonal skills. I'm definitely feedback queen, so that's not a problem. And inclusive relationships within diversity is like my thing. They should show the potential to exercise effective pastoral care. I think I can be very pastoral. I think so. I think I have with family and friends and colleagues in the past. Candidates must be willing to live within the discipline of issues of human sexuality. Well, that's just an easy one to tick the box, really. Sure. Criterion F, leadership and collaboration. Candidates should demonstrate an ability to offer leadership in the church community and in the wider community as appropriate. I think I did that at St James's. When I left, so many people showed their appreciation for me. And some of them I didn't even know when they said goodbye to me. I didn't recognise their faces. They obviously knew me because I was kind of in a leadership role in many capacities at that church. And with that positive feedback, I've got to think I did something right. This ability includes the capacity to offer an example of faith and discipleship which is inspiring to others and witnesses to the servanthood of Christ. I definitely think I'm a lot of my friends' most pious friend, and I'm always willing to talk about my faith and discipleship. They should show a commitment to identifying and nurturing the gifts of others and be able to collaborate effectively. I'm an extrovert. I work much better when I've got other people and I can see what they can do best, and as a team make something happen. And I've definitely got a spirit of collaboration, and I think St James's was exactly the right breeding ground for that attitude. Candidates should be able to identify their own leadership style and reflect on the strengths and weaknesses of this and the different ways in which leadership can be exercised within the church. Well, yeah, there's so many ways of leadership styles. There's just getting on and doing it. There's Nadia Bolz-Weber's, sort it, I'll go first style of leadership, which I can identify with. I think my style of leadership has varied, really, and I'm developing new ones every day. For example, with my children's ministry. I think a good word to sum up my particular style is facilitative. That's a terrible word. I mean that I'm a facilitator. They should be able to be flexible and adaptable in leadership and demonstrate ability to guide and shape the life of the church community in its mission to the world. I was just saying, wasn't I, that my leadership is varied? I think another word would be flexible and adaptable. One always hopes to have a little bit of influence, and I'm certainly opinionated, so I can always offer my opinion as a method of guiding the church. Criterion G, faith. Candidates should show an understanding of the Christian faith and a desire to deepen their understanding. How does one test if one has an understanding of the Christian faith? I would hope I do. I just wouldn't know how to demonstrate it. I definitely have a desire to deepen my understanding. Sometimes I don't feel like I understand anything. You start thinking about things like the Trinity, and it all seems to me obvious in a simple way, but I wouldn't be able to articulate it, which is why I need to deepen my understanding. You can understand something to one level, and then there's a level at which you can explain it so that other people understand it. They should demonstrate a personal commitment to Christ and a mature, robust faith which shapes their life and work. A commitment to Christ and a faith that shapes my life. Well, look at my life. I was drawn to be a Christian from a secular household. I was drawn to join a church and to get very involved. And now I'm drawn to work in the church. And I'm doing it. Candidates should show an ability to reflect critically on their faith and make connections between faith and contemporary life. That line, I think, is very well aimed at a millennial, because we are masters of criticising and pulling things apart to understand them. Certainly things like faith, where there's little to no proof sometimes. And part of how we do that is to make connections between our faith and contemporary life. I think there's a greater understanding of people as whole persons, so complicated and all the parts of them connecting and smushing together. And I think, so when it comes to faith, as it were, and contemporary life, I think those are a lot less disconnected now, certainly for my generation, than they have been. They should demonstrate a capacity to communicate their faith engagingly and effectively. I have some evidence for this from this week. On Wednesday, I was told afterwards by people who talked to him that there was a man who came in and was engaged by me specifically, and he talked of how welcoming and how effective I was when I was talking from the front during the service. And as you know, if you're a regular on this blog, I am working on communicating my faith as hard as I can. Criterion H, mission and evangelism. Candidates should demonstrate a personal commitment to mission that is reflected in thought, prayer and action. Well, compared to last time I did a video about this, I am in a much better place when it comes to this section. I never understood that I was already committed to mission, in the fact that I'm really excited and eager to get people into church, or to get people to connect with God or their own spirituality and all those different things. If part of the mission is to spread the word of God and to talk about Jesus, you can just ask my friends, I do it all the time. They should show a wide and inclusive understanding of mission and the strategic issues and opportunities within contemporary culture. Well, as you've seen when I've talked to you about my Gabriel Collective things, I'm working on that very much. And it's been a really great learning exercise for me, and I'm looking forward to continuing that learning. Candidates should be able to articulate the good news of the kingdom appropriately in differing contexts and speak of Jesus Christ in a way that is exciting, accessible and attractive. I find this a very interesting criterion, because surely not everyone can cover all the different contexts. And each person is going to have places that they are exciting and accessible, and then there's going to be contexts that they're not going to be as strong as. So my response to that is, well, I think I probably am exciting, engaging in some ways, sometimes in some contexts. And yes, I need to work on widening which context I'm best in. The main thing is appropriately. I can sometimes be a bit irreverent, which I might need to work on. They should enable others to develop their vocations as witnesses of the good news. I think this comes under what I was saying earlier about being a facilitator. Hopefully part of that is enabling other people. As witnesses of the good news, that's an interesting way of putting it. I would want a nice conversation with whoever's part of my discernment process about this particular sentence. They should show potential as leaders of mission. All I can say is, yeah, I think I have potential. Criterion I, quality of mind. Last one, guys. Candidates should have the necessary intellectual capacity and quality of mind to undertake satisfactorily a course of theological study and ministerial preparation and to cope with the intellectual demands of ministry. I've never been worried about this criteria. I've always been alright when it comes to the intellectual and educational stuff. They should demonstrate a desire to learn through the integration of academic study and reflection on experience and a commitment to this as a lifelong process of learning and formation. I swear I did not read through this before I started this video, and wasn't I just saying about it being a lifelong learning experience? Candidates should show flexibility of mind, openness to change and challenge, and the capacity to facilitate learning and theological reflection within the church community. I started a discussion group. Does that count as evidence? I am all for discussion and renewal and reform, as is the token phrase of the Church of England at the moment. And I've said many times, I am open to challenge by default of being a Christian, because I follow the man that challenged everything. So thank you very much for going through that. That was exciting for me, and hopefully it was interesting for you.